Hello everyone. This video will demonstrate use of the isPostback property in an ASP.NET web page. The main benefit of isPostback is it provides a way for us to make sure that program logic used to initialize a page only runs when someone visits it the first time. To begin, we're going to create a basic ASP.NET web page. So in Studio, I'm right-clicking the site and I'm choosing Add New Item. And I'm adding a web form, which is an ASPX web file. And I want to have the checkbox marked for place code in a separate file. After doing this, I click Add. We now have our web page. And here you can see the basic information that's presented in the web page layout. What I'm doing now is I'm switching to Design View. And Design View makes it possible for me to easily drag and drop a web control to my page. And the control I'm going to work with is a drop-down list. A drop-down list is a simple box that provides multiple items for selection by a user. And in the HTML output, this will become an HTML select element. So there are a few things I need to do to configure my drop-down list. First, I'm going to give it a label. So I'm simply going to type to the left of the control, fruits. And our drop-down list is going to have items like apples, oranges, and pears. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to define a meaningful ID for my drop-down list. I can do this on the right-hand side in the property display, but you can also do it directly in the source of the ASPX file itself. So to do so, I'm going to choose Source, and here you can now see that an ASP drop-down list control has been automatically added to the page with an ID of drop-down list 1. Another property or attribute that's very important is run@server. Without run@server, the linkage between the ASP.NET server and this file will never take place. So I'm going to change the ID to DDL fruits. And to make that take effect, I need to save the file and design the page by clicking the Design button at the bottom of the form. What that does is ensure that the bindings to that control are all fully configured before trying to work with the control in code. Now what I want to do is work on the web server application code side of the page. So if you notice in my Web Solution Explorer, we see our default ASPX file with a plus sign. Expanding that shows the .aspx.vb code file. So I double-click that file, taking me into the code. We actually are not in a place where I can enter any code at the moment other than definitions for things like variables that would apply to any and all functions or routines on the page. So what we need to do is work within the context of an event. Events are actions that occur when the page life cycle is firing. So when the page is loading or unloading, or even when someone is clicking a button, that's an event where we'd have to have a handler in place to work with that event. So the first event that I'm going to work with is the page load event. Page load is an event that fires when the actual web page itself is initialized and anything that's been retained from a previous page visit is loaded, and we're able to work with all the objects and controls on the page. So in my page load event, I want to work with my drop-down list. A nice convenient way to gain access to all the controls on the page is a keyword in Visual Basic.NET known as me. So if I type me and hit a period, the IntelliSense for Visual Studio takes effect, and you can see that just by the fact that it's a web control on the page, it's already come down to the DDL fruits control that we added just a few minutes ago. And if you can see in in the tooltip, it goes maybe off your screen, but it says protected with events DDL fruits as system web UI web controls drop down list. So I double click it. And now what I want to do is add a drop-down list item to it. So I'm going to choose the items collection and add a new drop-down list item, and I'm just going to type apples. And then I'm going to repeat that for 2 more items. I'm going to add oranges and pears. So what we're saying here is when our page loads, we want to populate our drop-down list with these 3 items. So I save my file, I right-click Default ASPX and choose View in Browser. Now note I'm not choosing the ASPX.vb file, I'm choosing simply the ASPX file, and I choose View in Browser. and our page is dynamically generated and compiled, and here you can see that we have a drop-down list with 3 values: apples, oranges, and pears. Now, behind the scenes, .NET is maintaining the state of that control, and what that means is now that we've loaded those values, .NET wants to help us by maintaining the state of this current page view. So if I choose View Source, the HTML for the page includes a hidden field. Right here, it's called Viewstate. And Viewstate has a very large value. It's all of this concatenated, encrypted content, and in that information is actually stored those values: apples, oranges, and pears. So all this is fine and good. Now, what happens if we refresh our page? Well, I've just done so. And if you can see in our source, that list, or that view state, is the same size. There's no information there that's new. And we only have 3 items. It's a very different case if I submit my page, because when I refreshed, I made a brand new request to the web server. It rendered the page as if it's a brand new day. But now what I'm going to do is submit the page, and that's going to change things. So first I close my browser, and I close my view source, and I go back to Visual Studio. And now what I'm going to do is go to my page, and I'm going to add a button control. So I can hit Enter, which creates a line break in the code, and drag a button in. And that's all I'm going to do. Now watch what happens when I view this page in a browser. Again, I have my 3 items, but when I click the button, we now have a duplicate list. We have the same items repeated. Every time I click that button, that list is going to grow. Behind the scenes, our view state's gotten pretty big, because every time I've been clicking that button, a call to the server has gone out and said, I have this list of fruits and I want to maintain it, and it's adding new items blindly because it doesn't even know that this list has already been populated. So if I just keep clicking button, you're going to see that view state just grow and grow and grow, and our list is going to go completely insane. So we need to fix this. We need to make sure that we only get the 3 fruits that we want there. Is postback is our answer to this problem. In the VB code, all I need to do is add an if statement, and that if statement would be if is postback equals false, then take these actions. And I'm going to move my 3 lines of code inside the if statement. And we'll talk about this in a minute, so for now I'm just going to view the page. Okay, so we have our 3 items. I click my button. We still have only 3 items. I click it as many times as I like. We only ever have 3 items. In my view source, that view state never grows like it was before. So what's happening here? Well, let's try to debug this code. So I'm going to right-click my default page, choose Set as Start Page, and put a breakpoint, which is an indicator of when the code should go into debug mode, on the line of code with the if statement. So now what I'm going to do is click the Start Debugging button, and I'm going to say yes when it asks about modifying the file. So now we have already hit our breakpoint, because this is the initial page load. And what you can see here, if I hold my mouse over the isPostback variable, is it's set to false. That's what it means there, where you have that vertical line between the variable and its value. So now I'm going to click my Step Into button, and because postback is false, which means we haven't posted back to the server, it adds the items. And the page will render. It'll take a minute when it first renders, especially because we're debugging. But there it is. We have our 3 items. Now what I'll do is I'll click my button again. We come back in. This time postback is true because we've posted back to the server. So now what happens is we step over those lines of code, we don't run them, our page loads, and it only has 3 items. So that's a basic demonstration of the isPostback property. This is really a vital concept to understand, especially because it enables you to efficiently configure your page when it's first visited and prevent that code from running over and over again, which will completely conflict with how .NET is trying to maintain state in Viewstate. I hope this has been helpful to you.